It's interesting that the story, as told in Martin Sixsmith's book, could hardly be more different in structure and detail than the film of the same name. We follow the chronology of events from 1952 onwards and discover the power struggle going on within the Irish government and civil service between those who were unhappy about the adoption of small children by wealthy American Catholics willing to pay for the privilege, and those who were afraid to tackle the might of the church hierarchy and Cardinal McQuaid in particular. We also meet the Hess family in Illinois, where Marge Hess, the sister of a Catholic bishop, already mother of 3 sons, wanted a daughter. Her brother facilitated the process, and she flew to Ireland to visit the convent where Philomena and Anthony lived. She wanted to take a child called Mary, Anthony's best friend, but she was so smitten with Anthony that she decided to take him too. Despite the efforts of a civil servant to obstruct the process, it took place, and in due course, Anthony and Mary were taken to an airport where a young man called Niall, who had never flown before, was given the job of flying them to Chicago to their new family. From that moment on, the book follows the life of Anthony, now known as Mike, and Mary, now officially his sister. What makes this so gripping and painful is the insight it provides into what it was like for a small boy in a strange country, dimly aware of the life he has left behind, and that this new family is not his real family, but convinced that the reason why he has been sent away is because of his deep-rooted weakness. The only solution is to be the best boy he can. Never argue, never complain, and do what he's told. It's an impossible burden to carry, along with looking after his sister, but it's what he was bothered with as a result of the greed, cruelty, and intransigence of the Irish Catholic Church. Continuing talking about the extraordinary and fascinating differences between the book on which the film Philomena is based itself, having finished reading the book, I can safely say that I have never come across source material which is so completely different to the film that it inspired. In fact, the film is about the relationship between Philomena and Martin Sixsmith, a kind of an odd couple, and the narrative drive is their hunt for the son who was taken from her 50 years previously. Well, the book is the story of that son. Sixsmith, who obviously wrote the book, barely features, nor does Philomena, except at the very beginning and end. And yet, this is a remarkably satisfying paradox. Everything you don't get in the film is available in the book. What did happen to Anthony, who became Michael? As I did in the previous piece, he was flown to America with Mary, the sister who wasn't his sister, and grew up with the Hess family, mother, father, and 3 older brothers, at least one of whom obviously disliked his adopted siblings. The father, Dr. Hess, was an archetypal 50s father, Republican, undemonstrative, racist, homophobic, boss of the family, and profoundly averse to the idea of his son being gay, which he only discovered after Michael died. Michael spent his childhood in fear of being discovered as wrong in some profound sense, and therefore discarded again since he was allowed to believe that his mother had given him up at birth and therefore didn't want him. In its own way, this is as cruel as anything else, including the nuns selling him to American parents and then telling Michael, when he came back to Ireland as an adult, that they couldn't help him trace his biological mother. The book is essentially an exploration of what it's like to be adopted, not know where you come from or where you belong, and never feel grounded in any one place or family. The results of that displacement manifested as Michael got older. He realized he was gay and had a number of lovers who he cared about, but he indulged in self-destructive behavior, which ruined their relationships and eventually led him getting AIDS. One of the profound contradictions in his life was the fact that he ended up working for the Republican Party in the 80s and 90s, when it was at its most homophobic and when the AIDS plague was so virulent and government did nothing to help. He never really reconciled himself to that, and it caused a lot of problems with his gay friends. The problem with the nuns, the Catholic Church, and the Republican Party is that each of them took a certain moral stance as a given. Homosexuality is wrong, abortion is wrong, and from that starting point, they justify all subsequent actions and decisions. But in my apolitical world, people are people, and generalizations and moral abstractions are just a lazy person's way of opting out of thinking about an issue and allowing prejudice to dictate outcomes. This book is the perfect complement to the film. Although it is initially disconcerting, I soon realized that it told me everything that the film didn't. And Coogan and his co-writer of the film script deserve an enormous credit for coming up with such a radical way of dealing with the story.